The man in control of the Tour de France, American Lance Armstrong. Past champions are already claiming that this bike race is over, but the fastest man in the Tour says, not so fast. Today, we slow things down a bit. Lance and his team take a break while we consider what's at stake. This is the 2000 Tour de France on ESPN2. After the first 11 days and 1,100 miles, today the Tour de France takes a timeout to allow us to review the most exciting days so far and to anticipate the most decisive days ahead. Hello again, everyone. I'm Adrian Karsten. The first 2 weeks of this 2000 Tour de France have seen some of the most significant days in bike racing that we can remember. The yellow jersey, the maillot jaune, has been passed to four very honorable men by their efforts. It started on the shoulders of 23-year-old David Miller from Great Britain, who won the yellow jersey on the very first day in the individual time trial. From David onto the shoulders of Laurent Jalabert, the first Frenchman to wear the yellow jersey in 2 years' time. Then, honorably, it went on to the shoulders of Alberto Elli. 36 years old, the man has completed 10 Tours de France. That's over 23,000 miles, more than anyone else in the Tour has logged so far. Where's the yellow jersey now? Appropriately on the shoulders of the defending champion, Lance Armstrong from Austin, Texas. When Lance and the rest of us came to France this summer, we figured his element of surprise was gone. Wait till you see what he did 2 days ago. He shocked not only himself and the rest of us, but the real contenders in bike racing. There are those who claimed last year after Lance won the 99 Tour that, his championship was a little bit tainted because 97 champion Jan Ullrich and 98 champion Marco Pantani weren't here last year. Well, they were on the final climb to Otakam the other day. Lance looked at them and said, let's go. He did. They didn't. There's a long way to go in this bike race now, but Lance is the strongest man in this Tour by far. His ride to repeat is on. That ride really began 2 days ago on Otakam. He was 5 minutes, 54 seconds out of first place and 16th position overall. Now, 4 minutes and 14 seconds ahead of Jan Ullrich, the German, the 97 champion, still considered his closest competition. Tyler Hamilton, Kevin Livingston, and George Hincapie will be his bodyguards as he goes on to defend his 99 title. Joining me now, a former pro who has been involved with the cycling for 30 years, John Eustace. John, with your experience, anxious to know something. When Lance Armstrong stepped off that podium in Paris last July 25th with the yellow jersey, he said, look, it's not just me, it's my team, the U.S. Postal Service. Do they have that magical feeling that they acquired as they got stronger when the race got longer last year?
Oh, I think they certainly do. I think it's a stronger team than last year. Last year, when they took over the yellow jersey, there were 12 days to go in the race. This year, there are 11. So they're pretty much the same position. What's more, they have a full team of 9 riders instead of 7 like they did last year. So they have the experience, they have the numbers. The only worry is that they might be a bit light in the high mountains after the performance at Otakam. But with a rest day under their belts, I think they're going to go to the Mont Ventoux and the rest of the Alps completely stimulated, ready to go, motivated to take this yellow jersey back to Paris.
Okay. Which is still over 1,100 cycling miles away, and Lance and his coach Johan Brunel know it. The entire team will go on a training ride today of about 1.5 hours. After logging so many miles in such a short period of time, the worst thing you really could do is take a day off because your body expects to work hard. The biggest moments of this race so far are measured in the race summary brought to you by Loterman AF. David Miller won the opening stage at an average of 33 miles per hour. In the team time trial, the Once team with Laurent Jalabert and Abraham Alano dominated the race to put Jalabert in the yellow jersey. Then stage 10 in the Pyrenees, the shadow boxing was over, and everyone was waiting for the verdict, a unanimous one, knockout for Armstrong. He left his main rivals trailing as he made up nearly 8 minutes on the stage leader in the final 7.5-mile climb up to Otakam. He now leads the Tour de France. When this 2000 Tour began back on Saturday, July 1st, all 20 teams had 9 members. Now, 160 of the original 180 cyclists are still in the race. As a matter of fact, 3 of the French teams have had the worst luck. They have lost the most members. The Once team with Jalabert and Abraham Alano have only lost 1 member, so they're still pretty strong. The U.S. Postal Service, unlike last year at this point, still has all 9 riders, and that's very good news for Lance Armstrong. In a moment, we'll show you how the yellow jersey went from a Tour rookie to the defending champion and everything in between on the first of 2 rest days on the Tour de France.
The 2000 Lincoln Navigator. It's so luxurious, so comfortable, and so peaceful. You can almost hear a needle drop. The best-selling full-size luxury SUV in America is also the most powerful in the world. If you're interested in hearing more, drop in.
You've always believed that your dreams would come true. And all of the time, we've been rooting for you. For long years, you put your life on hold. Now this is your chance, friend. Go for the gold. Don't fall. Now that the pressure is on, don't fall. Just keep your energy strong. Follow your star. 'Cause you've got a friend in Power Bar.
If I weren't a cyclist, I would be a... Boy. Tough questions. If I weren't a cyclist, I'd probably be... I don't know. I don't know.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of the 2000 Tour de France is presented by Lincoln, American Luxury, by Festina Watches, European styling since 1902 and the official timekeeper of the Tour de France, and by Power Bar. Don't bonk. This is the first of 2 rest days on this 2000 Tour de France. We are in the town of Carpentras, where tomorrow the race resumes with stage 12. The very first day of this 2000 Tour de France was one of the most significant. Unlike last year, Lance Armstrong did not win the very first yellow jersey. He lost it by 2 seconds to everyone's Rookie of the Year so far, David Miller, 23 years old from Great Britain. Winning that first Maillot Jaune was amazing, yes, but what he did out on the road to defend it the next 3 days was just as exciting. When the 2000 Tour de France began on July 1st, all of the contenders had their eyes on the prize. A stage 1 victory, a showcase of their individual strength, but no one expected this.
Miller comes up to the line. He's got the target, 19 minutes and 3 seconds. Now, the rest have it all to do. Miller has set down the best time. Lance Armstrong in the start house now, and he's ready to open up his defense of the year 2000. Here in France, it has become a sprint finish between an American and the past Tour de France winner and a first-time ever rider from Britain in David Miller. And it is literally a sprint as Armstrong races up this long finishing straight here, aiming for 1903. He hasn't got it. He has not got it.
David Miller, in his first ever day on the Tour, had the prize. Winning the yellow jersey is one thing. Defending it can be totally another. His team kept him safe for the day. Containment, though, led to a speed finish, captured by Tom Steels, the former Belgian national champion. David Miller's tranquil day in yellow would be interrupted by the obstacles ahead. There's always danger in the Tour de France. Even for the man with the Maillot Jaune, there is nowhere to hide. While the sprinters lined up for the finish, Miller got back on his bike and continued to race.
There is David Miller. He's got to fight. He's going to have to do something very special to get himself back onto the tail. If there is a gap of 1 second in the main field, then David Miller will lose his jersey because he will be given a special time. He's gone straight by his teammate there.
And he kept going. While another stunning photo finish allowed Tom Steels to echo his earlier victory, Miller saved the last moment in the yellow jersey. The dream would be ended, though, by Team Otse, 9 men shattering their opponents in the team time trial, knocking the contenders like Alex Zula, Marco Pantani, the 98 champion, and Jan Ullrich, the 97 champion back. Only Team U.S. Postal Service could counter the punch. Lance Armstrong was almost too strong. His team held on and kept their man in sight. The Postal Boys finished second on the day. Ponce's best placed Laurent Jalabert brought the yellow jersey home. On Wednesday in Stage 5, 2 men escaped the peloton for 3 hours and 10 minutes. Over 100 miles, only to lose it in the last 100 meters. The Tour de France can also be heartbreaking.
Marcel Wust dives across to the left. He tries to grab the wheel of Zabel, and as they come up to the line, Wust may have this one. He's got it. Marcel Wust has done it on the line. A tremendous finish indeed.
In Stage 6, Ponce decided not to defend Jalabert's yellow jersey. With Lance's chances further down the road, a group of 12 riders escaped. The danger lay, however, in Telecom's climber, hidden deep in the pack. While Dutch champion Leon van Bon sprinted to victory, we had a new contender in the yellow jersey. Stage 7, 2 years and 40 stages removed from a Frenchman winning a Tour stage, Christophe Agneluto brought back the glory to France, if just for one day. Yet the ultimate achievement in cycling remained on the shoulders of Italian Alberto Elli. Stage 8 would allow Eric Decker, the Dutchman, to capture his first ever Tour stage win. A close call for the escapees in Stage 9, but Mappe's Paolo Bettini would triumph across the line. After 9 stages, the question of who would truly be in contention upon arrival in Paris was wide open. Now, with 9 stages complete, we look forward to the Pyrenees. The first day in the mountains, the first real big test for the real race contenders. Ulrich, Pantani, Zula, and of course, Lance Armstrong. Everyone said, remember Sestriere. That was the mountain last year in '99 where Lance blew the Tour wide open. Those memories, that motivation, they were all alive when the day started, although he was 5 minutes and 54 seconds out of the lead. 9 stages were complete. The Pyrenees Mountains loomed on the horizon. As the weather turned from bad to worse, the stage was set for a showdown. One question remained: who would attack first? Armstrong and Postal put it upon themselves to set the tempo early.
This is a great performance here by U.S. Postal Service.
Armstrong's team rode into the storm and, blowing the peloton to pieces, knew they had a price to pay too.
We know that Lance Armstrong now has been left alone in that group. All of his teammates have been dropped.
Surrounded by his rivals, it was a waiting game, but we didn't wait long.
And there he goes. It had to come. He is such a predictable man.
Armstrong, wearing number 1, was expecting the attack to come from Marco Pantani. Zula is the man taking up the chase, and immediately after that is Lance Armstrong himself.
Ulrich is trying to react, but I think we might be seeing Jan Ulrich in a bit of bother.
Alex Zula came across the gap there pretty rapidly, and Armstrong now is the man setting the pace and putting the Pirate in difficulty.
Armstrong did start it, but he looks like he's got every idea he might like to finish it.
And look at this, Armstrong accelerating once again, and there's a gap now starting to appear between Lance Armstrong and Marco Pantani, getting out of the saddle, going back into the saddle, trying to find a little bit more strength, and he's popped.
A shake of the head there by little Marco Pantani. I've never seen so many tired big names in the Tour de France. These fellows have all tried and have been destroyed. Armstrong let them all do it and then has ridden them off.
He's now building up on the victory of last year and looking really to blow away every one of his contenders on the road here of Hautacam.
Well, Lance Armstrong looks set now to pull on the maillot jaune. There is nobody in front now who Lance Armstrong will fear in this year's Tour.
It's a long ways to go. Those guys are, they'll still be factors in the race.
But not in Stage 11, as U.S. Postal took charge of the race. Containing a 2-man breakaway of Stage 8 winner Eric Decker and the Team Kelma's Santiago Botero. Banesto fighting their Spanish rival Team Kelma for the best team standing would save U.S. Postal valuable work. However, nothing would stop Decker at the finish. But after a single day in the Pyrenees, a lot of the cyclists wonder, will anything or anyone stop Lance Armstrong in this 2000 Tour de France? So here we are. The situation halfway through the 2000 Tour is similar to that of '99. Lance Armstrong is leading the Tour de France with the yellow jersey. He's really in control of the Tour. However, over the next 10 days, it's not so much Lance that Ulrich's team and Pantani's team are going to go after. It's his support squad, men like Tyler Hamilton, Frankie Andreo in his 9th Tour, and of course, George Hincapie, his bodyguard. They're the ones with the bullseyes on their back. They're the ones that the other teams are going to try and beat up first. There are plenty of other English-speaking cyclists who are here and left their impression on the tour. We'll meet them in a moment.
The excitement of the digital world is yours now. Suddenly, Time Warner Cable delivers hundreds of channels.
When you want it.
High-definition television so real.
Touch it.
Digital sound so pristine.
Feel it.
High-speed online communications from Roadrunner.
Anywhere, instantly.
All yours, available nowhere else in the universe.
Nowhere else.
Time Warner Cable.
The excitement begins.
You're in control with In Demand. Pay-per-view for the demanding viewer. You rule.
Kobe, someone here to talk to you.
Kobe, they said if you come out now, everything will be all right. Honey, I know this is important, but what about us?
This is about us. You, me, and everyone in this country. We're America's lieutenant. They've got to see us.
All of this over a damn time slot.
MLS Soccer Saturday on ESPN and ESPN2.
Contenders, 3 continents, 1 winner. The new Lincoln LS. Motor Trend Car of the Year.
Cycling is traditionally a European sport, dominated by the men who speak Spanish, French, and Italian. But recently, there is a new language being heard quite loudly throughout the Tour de France by the cyclists who speak English.
Since the historic rides of Greg LeMond, English-speaking cyclists have increasingly influenced the Tour with each successive year.
Each generation is bringing a few more Anglophones into the peloton.
We're all part of the Le Mans generation. I mean, we were inspired by Le Mans in '89 and '90.
When we first started, it was kind of intimidating because you couldn't really speak with many people, not to mention that you were nervous and you couldn't even move up into the first 50. But now, we have that English-speaking mafia together.
Come together they have, with 2 podium spots in the last 2 tours and a cumulative 18 days in the yellow jersey.
You know, there's only a few of us here, but we seem to have a pretty big influence on the results.
It was just first finishing the Tour de France, that was the best we could hope for. Then it was like maybe winning a stage. Then it was, the podium, and then it was winning the overall. And so it kind of raises the bar and makes everyone more comfortable realizing that we can do this, and we are, professional athletes and have the right to be leaders of a team over in Europe.
We've all been around now for a couple of years, 5, 6, 7 years, and it's about time we start getting some good results and getting the respect that we deserve.
The respect and results have arrived, due not only to the increased interest in the Tour by the English-speaking cyclists, but to their acute attention to detail as well.
The American or English-speaking way of preparing things with being very well organized and being very systematic about doing things is making a huge difference.
And you see certain riders that obviously don't train hard enough, at least, and they don't. It's not just training either; it's what they do off the bike. Do they look after their bodies from a diet perspective, or from a stretching perspective, or do they look at their equipment from a high-tech perspective? So it's 2 different mentalities.
We don't kind of hold the traditions like the French and the Italians have these 1,000-year-old traditions that they stick by and stand by, and I think they're a little bit overrated sometimes.
The riders or the teams that are just kind of sticking to the old ways of 25, 30 years ago are just, not making the grade, at least in the big race like this, because this is where the little attention to detail really pays big.
Finally, consider this, that after the first 11 days of the 2000 Tour de France, 4 men have worn the yellow jersey. To two of them, English is their native tongue. David Miller and Lance Armstrong. Following our Tour de France coverage Friday night on ESPN2, the tradition of championship bouts and top-rated challengers continues with a 12-round super lightweight bout. It's Friday Night Fights presented by Miller High Life, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2. When we come back, a monument to Tour de France tradition. The mountain named Ventoux will have a lot to say in the outcome of the 2000 Tour.
Wood, leather, adrenaline. The new Lincoln LS. Motor Trend Car of the Year.
Outtakes, the new book by Dan Patrick. Full, expanded interviews from Dan's Outtakes column in ESPN the magazine take you inside the minds of today's favorite athletes. Offbeat, revealing, and fuego. Outtakes in bookstores now or through ESPN.com.
This is our last Tour de France for some time to come. So when we finally pack our bags for home, these are some of the pictures that we'll take with us, along with our passion for this sport. With me now, my friend Phil Liggett, whose coverage of the Tour de France spans 4 decades. Phil, in that amount of time, can you ever remember an attack in the mountains like that of Lance Armstrong a couple of days ago? It was dominant and it was devastating.
Well, it was unbelievable. But yes, of course, the big names who've won the Tour de France, like Louis Ocaña, Eddie Merckx, Bernard Hinault, Miguel Indurain, and of course, Greg LeMond, they have always put in good attacks. But somehow, the attack on Hautacam by Lance Armstrong, when he let everybody play the cards and then rode away from them, I think he made them all look very ordinary bike riders.
The cyclist seemed to be in the biggest amount of shock was Jan Ullrich. He came across the finish line barely, looking exhausted. When he won the Tour back in '97, to all of us, he looked machine-like he was going to win 4 or 5 Tours de France like Indurain. I think he may have lost this Tour de France months ago through lack of discipline.
Well, he's been fighting the flab for the last 2 or 3 years. He goes very, very overweight, and then he just rides around, not competitive for 2 or 3 months. You can't do that with the Tour de France. You have to ride yourself into the event and come with good form. He's paying the price. Some will argue that Lance Armstrong does a similar thing, but he doesn't. He rides fewer races, yes, because he thinks of the Tour de France, but he rides those races with purpose, checks his form, and then has a rest. A big difference.
Ullrich is the type of cyclist who comes in a little bit heavy, but this time too heavy, and then rides himself into shape, usually in warm, hot, humid weather. That has not been the case so far, as Paul Sherwin is about to identify for us.
Well, Adrian, this is it. The Mont Ventoux today, and it's not a very nice place to be. It's freezing up here, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and visibility at the moment down to 50 yards. You can see the surface of the climb, though, is really something like the mountains of the moon, and there's not very much oxygen up here either. But over the past, it has always been the scene of some great battles in the Tour de France. The Tour de France has finished at the summit of the climb on 5 separate occasions, and it's always been cycling greats who've won here. Charlie Gall, the Angel of the Mountains, captured victory here in 1958. He was followed by Raymond Poulidor, and a couple of years later, the great Eddie Merckx himself won on the summit of this mountain. But it is a mountain that riders need to be worried about. Lance Armstrong raced up here in the Dauphiné Libéré earlier this season, and he had a hard time. And he certainly hasn't forgotten that.
It's a place where I think everybody who loves cycling or is a fan of cycling or follows the sport should go, because it's unlike anything anywhere else. It's 1,900 meters at the top, but it's not like any other 1,900 meters anywhere else. I mean, 1,900 meters on On the Izoard, you can breathe. The top of the Ventoux, you cannot breathe. At least I can't. It's like the moon. There's nothing there. Nothing even grows. There's no grass. There's just rock. It's weird.
When you ride over the top of there, you've still got an awful long way to go to Paris, but will you feel a little breath of relief?
A very, very small one, but not. No, there's too far. There's so many more climbs to go after that. But I will be glad to put it behind me.
Lance Armstrong is right to be concerned about this mountain because it really is a very bizarre place. But it was actually back in May in the Dauphiné Libéré when he was put under pressure on the slopes of this climb. And since then, I know he's spoken to his coaches and his trainers, and they've meticulously studied the slopes of the Mont Ventoux. When Armstrong comes out tomorrow, I feel certain he'll be ready to do battle. But one thing's for certain, once he goes over the top of this climb, he will breathe a sigh of relief.
This really is July 11th, and it really is 32 degrees at the top of Ventoux. Jamal, can Lance do what he did to his rivals in the Pyrenees? Well, before the first mountain stage, he was up on Jan Ullrich by 43 seconds and Marco Pantani by 5 minutes, 12 seconds. But on Oudacam, he practically embarrassed them both. He gained 3.5 minutes on Ullrich and more than 5 minutes on Pantani, all in the space of 7 miles in one single attack. Earlier this afternoon, the defending champion of the Tour de France out keeping his legs loose and his bodyguards close by his side. More in a moment.
How does Lotrimin AF start curing athlete's foot? On contact. How does it start to relieve the itching and burning? On contact. So if you can't wait to feel better, there's nothing like starting the cure. On contact. Lotrimin AF, the killer cure.
The 2000 Lincoln Navigator. It's so luxurious, so comfortable, and so peaceful. You can almost hear a needle drop. The best-selling full-size luxury SUV in America is also the most powerful in the world. If you're interested in hearing more, drop in.
How does Lotrimin AF start curing athlete's foot? On contact. How does it start to relieve the itching and burning? On contact. So if you can't wait to feel better, there's nothing like starting the cure. On contact. Lotrimin AF, the killer cure.
It's about velocity, aerodynamics, gravity, kinetic energy, friction. It's about sports. It's ESPN Sports Figures. You can score points at school by learning math and physics through the dynamics of sports. ESPN Sports Figures. Put your brain in the game.